Hey everybody, I'm Anna.
And I'm Brian.
And we are Those Annoying Vegans!
And here we are back at the table for another mukbang. What are we enjoying today, Anna?
Guess what? Soup.
Yes.
I think all our mukbangs are soup.
OMG soup. Well, soup is very easy to make. It's very cheap to make. It's one of our go-tos, soup and chili. Super easy. You can make a whole big batch of it for the whole week. This is actually a green lentil soup that we whipped together. We don't have the recipe for it on our channel. Too bad, so sad for you. But we do have a red lentil soup recipe.
So mean.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was mean. It's kind of the same. It's similar. There's more like tomato-y and chili powder in it.
And it's also green.
Yeah, green lentils
instead of
red.
orange. Well, red.
They're called red lentils.
But they're orange.
They're actually orange. They turn yellow when you cook them. It's a matrix of confusion. Oh, yeah.
I mean...
It's kind of like an Italian pasta. It kind of has a
has
flavor.
a minestrone flavor almost.
Like a minestrone flavor profile.
Hey, why not throw some pasta in there? It's so hearty. It's got potatoes, carrots, tomato, onions. Yeah. And...
Always.
It is delicious.
So today we wanted to talk about a video from Tim Pool. Tim Pool is apparently a YouTuber. We had never heard of him until we were made aware of this video. YouTuber and beanie enthusiast. Apparently has two channels. There's the Tim Pool channel and then there's the Timcast channel. The Timcast channel recently put out a video called College Leftist Claims Milking Cows is Sexual Exploitation Because We Live in Hell. Here's the thing about Tim Pool. You go through his video feed, much like Hunter Avallone. Clearly, just looking at the thumbnails on his channel, he's an anti-leftist or a pro-rightist. And so he made a video here about the dairy industry.
Let's take a look.
I don't know if we are living in a simulation, but whatever this universe is, I must say, if there is a divine creator or some all-powerful entity, they have a great sense of humor. Every so often you get one of these gems. New York University promotes paper comparing cow insemination to rape and milking cows to sexual abuse. The sexual exploitation of dairy cows. The author argues that in order to be a true advocate for feminism, one must consider the commodification of a dairy cow's reproductive rights. Is this a hoax? Tell me this is not a hoax.
So far, Mr. Pool has not actually provided any sort of counter argument.
No, it's almost like an observation, like, ha ha ha, that's ridiculous, ha ha ha.
He's scoffing and asserting that the comparison is ridiculous, but is not actually offering a justification for why it's ridiculous. In order to produce milk, cows, just like human beings, have to be pregnant. And the way that humans impregnate cows is they don't put a female cow and a male cow on Match.com and let them find each other. They forcefully inseminate female cows.
Absolutely. It would be too time consuming to do it otherwise.
Yeah.
It's standard industry practice to forcefully inseminate a cow.
So if we forcefully inseminated a human woman, what would we call that? That is the comparison that the vegan community is making. Now, you can argue and say, I don't agree that forceful insemination of cows can be equated to rape, but then you would have to provide a justification for why.
I don't believe that somebody would actually claim milking a cow is sexual exploitation. Oh my God.
The entire vegan community compares the dairy industry to sexual exploitation because the dairy industry is sexual exploitation.
By definition, it exploits cows for their reproductive systems. And that doesn't just include female cows, male cows too.
Oh, and they also take babies away from mothers and kill them. Moving on.
But that's funny, right?
That's hilarious.
You can see I'm trying really hard. Okay, when I first saw the story, I just busted out laughing, and I'm trying really hard to not just bust out laughing, but you can tell I'm enjoying myself. Titled, Readying the Rape Rack, Feminism and the Exploitation of Non-Human Reproductive Systems. The published piece aims at discussing the sexual exploitation of non-human bodies, specifically dairy cows. Oh, God, I'm trying so hard not to laugh.
I don't think you're trying at all. The thought that non-human animals should be deserving of an equal right to their own bodies as human animals is ridiculous to you, funny to you. Here you are laughing at the idea while actually consuming the milk of another mammal in your adult years. So you haven't even weaned. Isn't that actually more illogical?
I also get the feeling that I'm gonna laugh, I'm gonna bust out laughing, oh, this is ridiculous. That all seems like an act to me. Like, you don't actually look like you're about to bust out laughing. You look like you're trying to seem like this is funny as a placeholder for an actual argument.
As a vegan and animal rights activist, she feels compelled to reveal the, quote, feminist aspects of animal agriculture, a topic she says is unfortunately under-researched, but is nonetheless important because, quote, the same way women's health has been at stake for years, a dairy cow's reproductive system has been poked and prodded.
Let's talk about poked and prodded for a little bit, shall we? In order to forcefully inseminate a cow, she needs to be placed in what is called a rape rack. And by the way, that is the term that the industry uses for this contraption. We know you scoffed at the term rape rack as if the author took creative license and made up that word, but no, that's actually what it's called in the industry. It is also used, as a matter of fact, in dog breeding. Would you be okay with it then? So the cow is in the rape rack. In order to inseminate her, the farmer needs to insert his fist and full arm into her anus and shove in this long needle-like tube with the bull semen against her will. I would say that that would fall into the category of being poked and prodded. That, my friend, is what we would call rape. Because the cow is not consenting to be inseminated, to have a child that will be forcefully taken away from her the second she gives birth to him. Or her.
I would pay someone to write something like this, just so that I could read it and laugh. But the thing that makes this truly funny is that it's serious. It's like somebody actually wrote this. Let's go back in time. Animal husbandry is like one of the first things you develop in the game of Civilization. Like farming and like domestication of animals. It is the domestication of beasts of burden and other animals that have helped humans progress to the point they are today.
We have our first argument. Okay, so ancestors, though, appears to be Tim's first argument, because our ancestors did something that makes that thing moral today. Our ancestors did a lot of things. Our ancestors murdered, our ancestors raped, our ancestors enslaved humans, our ancestors...
People still do that, by the way.
Yeah, it still happens. It's seen as morally wrong today. But our ancestors did it. The question would then be, why, just because our ancestors did something, does that make it moral to do it now? We are not our ancestors. And yes, humans did a lot of things leading up to where we are now. But now we are moral agents. We have big brains. We're proud of them. We're intelligent, quote unquote, intelligent
Sometimes.
As a species. We can think for ourselves. We can look at a situation objectively and say, is this something that I want to be a part of now? We're going to go out on a limb and assume that you purchase food at a grocery store. You don't actually have a need to exploit an animal any longer.
Some of the first major developments for humans, like the domestication of the dog, dramatically increased human survivability, and the domestication of the cow. And yes, we had cows and we knew they would mate, and we knew that when the cow had a baby, she'd make milk, and then we'd take that milk, and we selected the animals to be bred specifically for being dairy cows.
Cows would have babies and then we'd take that milk because it belongs to us.
You said it very jovially.
Yeah, you also said it like it was the most natural, normal thing to do. I wonder if he would feel this way if we were talking about dogs or cats.
Imagine this, a bunch of like proto-humans are sitting around and they're like hungry, and one of them goes, hey, what if we take that animal and drink its milk because that way we won't starve? And then the other, nomadic, proto-human goes, hey, whoa. We're not going to sexually exploit another animal. We're not going to eat meat either.
You're talking about proto-humans, whatever that means. I don't know if that
it's effectively ancestors, though.
Okay.
We're still saying ancestors, though. But we're not saying, what if proto-humans wanted to take milk? We're saying you, Tim Pool.
Today, in
2019. Proto-humans did a thing. So I can do a thing. Appealing to tradition, that would be the logical fallacy that Tim is committing here. It's a horrible argument, but I'm glad that he finally provided an argument.
Man, veganism, I'm sorry, vegans, like by all means, if you're a vegan, like you do your thing. I got no beef, live and let live.
Live and let live? Dude, does that only apply to you? Does that only apply to humans?
It's not live and let live. It's live and let me murder your child. Because that's what happens to the children of dairy cows. They get murdered. If they're boys, they get murdered for veal. If they're girls, sometimes they get murdered for veal, but most likely they'll go back into the dairy industry. But dairy cows still get murdered for hamburgers because after about 4 or 5 years, once their milk production slows, they are deemed useless by the dairy industry and they get sold off to be killed for their flesh anyway. So dairy cows get killed. Drinking dairy funds cow death. It's a direct line.
You're enslaving the animal for the duration of his or her life.
Yes.
In this case, her life. And exploiting her reproductive organs for your taste buds because you choose not to drink plant-based milks. I don't know. You have a scale. Taste is on this end and life is on this end. One of them has a higher moral value.
Mm-hmm.
We would hope you would value life over taste. Unless, of course, you're modeling your morality after that of proto-humans, in which case, why wouldn't other proto-human behaviors be considered moral, such as rape or murder?
Yes.
Or stealing.
Also, the live and let live thing drives me nuts when I hear non-vegans say, like, hey man, if you're vegan, it's cool, man, you do you. I don't have a problem with you not exploiting animals. Of course. That's not like an olive branch that you're extending. If you were like, hey, feminists, if you want to think that women and men are equal, you do you. I got no problem with that. If you want to treat women equally, if you want to give them all these rights that men have, you do you over there, crazy leftist. I don't like it when people just pay lip service saying like, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, you keep up the good fight, you know,
Yeah.
and friends do that a lot, unfortunately. Friends and family. I love them dearly, but it's one of those things where like, yeah, you'll keep fighting the good fight while I go have a
I'm
hamburger.
going to keep funding what you're directly opposed to morally.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't eat beef. Okay, maybe people don't know this. I don't eat beef. I have nothing against it. I just can't really do it. I get sick if I eat it.
Wait a second. You get sick when you eat the flesh of a cow?
Weird.
Surprise.
Oh, that's weird.
He doesn't eat meat because it doesn't sit well in his stomach.
Yeah.
It's all about you.
It's
It's all about you.
Oh, I'll kill a cow. Don't get me wrong. I'll murder the out of a cow right now. But it gives me a tummy ache. Great moral argument.
But I love fish and chicken. I absolutely chicken fingers all day and night.
I'm sure you're so proud of yourself, too.
You pay someone to murder chickens on your behalf.
Yeah.
Very manly.
Stand-up guy.
By the way, chickens don't have fingers. Chicken fingers. It's another euphemism that we created for the mashed up flesh of a chicken's breast that we've then breaded and seasoned with vegan food, aka plants and herbs and spices. We've seasoned this flesh and deep fried it in breading to make it palatable. And then we gave it a fun name, chicken fingers.
I also at one point owned chickens. They were laying eggs, 2 fresh eggs every day from 2 chickens. I was taking those eggs. Dare I say it, would I be accused of sexually exploiting these chickens by taking their eggs? This how insane this is.
Are you sexually exploiting chickens by taking their eggs?
Specifically backyard chickens, right? Backyard hens, backyard eggs.
Is it sexually exploitative? I would say yes. For one, eggs are not ours to take. You have these animal companions whom you say you own, but hopefully they are friends to you. You are personally gaining from something that comes out of their bodies that is the product of their reproductive system. Since you've had chickens, I'm sure you know, chickens actually eat their own eggs to replenish the calcium, iron, and minerals they've lost in laying them because it is a very taxing process. I don't know if you've watched a chicken lay an egg. It's like giving birth. And usually chickens will sit on their eggs. They do that instinctually, whether there is a rooster who's inseminated them or not. If they have no rooster, eventually that egg will probably go bad. So it is a good idea to crack it open for them or cook it for them to eat again. Chickens choosing to eat their eggs is such a common behavior that there is a wiki page on how to curb this annoying behavior. It's such a natural behavior, and one of their suggestions is to kill the chicken for doing what comes naturally to them.
Non-vegans do this a lot, right? They say, oh, I know a friend who has backyard hens, or I had backyard hens. Like, 90% of people all of a sudden have backyard hens or know someone that has backyard hens. When you talk about veganism, if you get eggs at a grocery store, if you get eggs at a restaurant, 99% of all eggs that people consume are factory farmed eggs. So I don't know why we're arguing for backyard hens, backyard chickens. He said he used to have them. I'm guessing that means he no longer has them, but you still eat eggs. What does this have to do with your current situation? You have to ask yourself, like, if you live with a dog, would you no longer wish to live with the dog if the dog didn't provide you with a daily ovulation that you could eat? We have different standards for different animals. We love dogs. We want to go play with dogs, take dogs for a walk, take them to the beach, play fetch, just enjoy being in the company of a dog. We don't expect the dog to give me anything out of his or her body that I can then consume. Mm-hmm. But with chickens, we expect eggs from chickens. Otherwise, why even have a chicken? It's clearly two different standards that people hold for different species. So we're treating different species differently, which is called speciesism. That's what the vegan community is opposed to, treating animals differently purely based on species.
I'll tell you why you should have a chicken. Yeah! Good job! Good job, Betty! You did it! You did it, my little chicken. There you go. All the treats for you. Yeah! Good job. Yes, you did very well. You did very well.
Humans farm animals, okay? These are farm animals. Oh, this is so funny.
Farm animals, though, our purpose for them is for them to be farmed. It doesn't address their point of view because they're the victims and we're the oppressors. Someone in the 1800s could have easily just said, these are black people, though. They're black people. That doesn't actually address the victim's concern.
Right.
You see, it's the same
logic.
logic.
When we look at a social justice issue, we have to look at it from the victim's point of view. Because when you look at it from the oppressor's point of view, of course, you're looking at what you can get from them. You're looking at how they benefit you. Yeah, we've genetically modified them. And that's another thing. They were laying 2 eggs, I'm assuming 1 egg each every day. That's not natural.
No.
That's we've bred them to do that. We've bred them to lay over 300 eggs every year. How much would it suck to have a period every day?
I don't know. How much would it suck, Anna?
Humans eat other animals, and other animals eat other animals. Chickens eat mice, too. You ever see this? There's like a viral video where there's like a cat looking at a mouse, like about to swat it, and then a chicken jumps out and grabs the mouse and just beats it to death on a rock. And that's like the craziest thing. People don't realize chickens are carnivores, man. They like eating bugs. Everybody thinks you give them like, corn and stuff, but there's like special food you give them, but no, they like eating, they're omnivores, I said carnivore, but they're omnivores. They eat everything.
Other animals eat other animals, though? Because an animal does something, why does that make it moral for you to do that very thing? And by the way, he brought up chickens murdering mice by slamming them into rocks. We don't do that. We artificially inseminate other animals against their will so that they will have children that we can then raise and murder intentionally in a factory so that we can then go buy their corpses at a grocery store. A far cry from the way omnivores and carnivores behave in the wild. So even if it was somehow morally justified to behave like a carnivore in the wild, which it isn't, we don't behave like carnivores in the wild.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't leave your house every day looking left and right, watching for a jaguar. And I mean the cat, not the car. And then go on your lunch break at work, ready to claw other animals to death for your meal.
With your razor-sharp claws.
Hands. And
yes.
Incredible eyesight and speed.
And long, pointy canine teeth that you can bite chunks of flesh off of an animal. Oh, wait.
I'm not a dairy farmer, but I did do a few videos, like a mini doc, talking to dairy farmers. And one thing that really blew my mind, I didn't know this, I was in California, there was no gate where the cows were. And I noticed that one of the cows had like crossed the street and was like milling about. And I was talking to the farmer and I said, the cow is leaving. And he was like, oh yeah. And I was like, aren't you worried? Like there's no gate? And he was like, oh no, they come back. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, cows, they do their thing. And I was like, you don't have to keep them here with like a gate? Oh, no, they go out, they come back. And I was like, why do they leave? And he's like, oh, I don't know, go walking around, I guess. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's almost like they're autonomous beings with their own delights and joys and feelings about the world, and they want to go explore.
And I'm like, and they come back, and it's like, oh yeah, for sure. And I said, why do they come back? And he goes, oh, I think that's where the food's at. I know there are horrible factory farms with dairy cows and other stuff, and it can be gross, but at least in California, I saw cows just kind of walking around, like often just leaving. I remember talking to a guy, he said one of the things is the milking stations are automatic. The cows choose to go in there because otherwise they get full of milk and it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, so you have cows who are choosing to stay here, who are going into the milking station on purpose, now taking their babies away. You know, I've seen those videos too.
Just brushing that under the rug.
Just, yeah. I've seen those videos. You know that...
Infant kidnapping.
You know that in order for us to take any cow's milk, their babies have to be taken away. That's all cows.
Yeah.
No farmer will find it profitable to keep a mother cow and her newborn calf together so that the calf can drink the milk that humans want to buy. And this thing about going to this farm, and I don't know where you went. I know we've driven past very beautiful green fields, like on our way to Yosemite. There were beautiful open pastures, beautiful, just expansive green and hills, and there were cows, and they were just kind of roaming. Those places do exist. Let's not forget that when those cows are done being profitable, they'd still end up at the same slaughterhouse. But if you go to Ontario, California, where it is mostly factory farms, everywhere you look.
Yeah, well, there's factory farms all up and down the 5.
Yeah.
Like, you went to California one time or something? We live in California. You drive up and down the 5, factory dairy farms. All over the place.
And those cows aren't roaming, and they're not on green fields. And also this thing about, the cow just leaves and comes back because there's food, and the cow wants to be milked. First of all, and my female friends who have had children and have had to breastfeed can attest to this, and please do so in the comments, how painful it is when you cannot breastfeed, when you fill up with milk and you can't breastfeed right that second. That's why there's an incentive that nature gave us to feed our babies, and that is pain. Aside from wanting to keep our children alive, but you don't want pain either.
Skirting the entire issue of the fact that we artificially inseminated the cow against her will, forced her to go through this pregnancy, she gave birth, we now took her child from her.
So now there is no child, no calf to drink her milk, and therefore her udders fill up, and that gets painful. Like this cow. This is a cow I personally witnessed in Ontario, California. This cow was full of milk. Does this look natural to you?
Oh, but they want to be relieved of their milk pain in their udders. Like, dude, you're just ignoring the entire precursor to this animal producing milk in the first place. Sure, they go to a milking station to alleviate the pain of their udders filling with milk. That doesn't address the source of their udders filling with milk.
Which is that they have no calf to feed.
You're not this dense. You're treating this like it's ridiculous, and you're scoffing and you're laughing and you're saying, oh, I'm going to burst out laughing. It's all a facade. You're too smart to actually think the way that you're portraying that you think. Oh, but they come back because the food's here. Okay, people have children. They let their children go run outside and play during the summertime. Hey, the kids come back. Why do they come back? Oh, because the house is where the food is. Does that mean we can kill them in 4 or 5 years? Because, we provided them with food? We're not worried about them escaping.
It's like, you mean cows actually appreciate shelter and food to eat?
So because we provide those things to them, then it justifies us taking their children and killing them after 4 or 5 years? Like, what?
Yeah,
I don't know what this argument is.
I think what he is implying is that if cows felt like they were being mistreated, then why would they come back?
Right.
The cows may not know that your intention is to murder them in 4 or 5 years. But again, you're looking at it from your perspective, the perspective of the oppressor. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were to murder a cow in front of all her friends, guess who would want to get the out of there? You go to a slaughterhouse and they do murder animals in front of each other. Mm-hmm. And they are looking for a way out because they know what death looks like. They know what the smell of blood means. They know what the cries and the screams mean. Mm-hmm. They want to get out of there.
It's really I mean, sick and twisted. Like when cows go off to slaughter, like they don't kill them at the dairy farm. It's just one day a cow disappears, gets into a truck, goes away, and we never see that cow again. The other cows don't know that that cow has just been sent off to her death, but that cow has just been sent off to her death.
Look, there are certainly bad places, and I can respect people for calling out the factory farms, because I've seen them, like driving, I can't remember what highway it was on, it was like 80 or something. You could see it smells bad, it's like mud, and the cows there not happy, but California was very different.
California is not different.
You've been to a small part of California then, because there is a highway here too, as we've said, the 5, and it smells bad, and it looks, there's everywhere.
Yes, it runs right up the center of the state.
Yeah.
One of California's main exports is dairy. A lot of cows being exploited for their milk and then murdered in California. A lot of them. So much so that there are campaigns like real milk, real cheese, real California cheese, all this other bullshit.
These people have no idea what goes on in a farm. They've probably never even been around a cow.
That sounds familiar. Tim, you don't know what goes on a farm. Clearly.
As smart as we are also very impressionable. And that is why there is a thing that you study in college called marketing. Because it is a thing. There is a way to get into the human brain and convince people that they should buy something.
Otherwise good people.
Yeah.
You can convince them to buy something that goes against their own values.
And it is everywhere. Now with social media, it's on TV, it's on our phones, it's everywhere, it's on posters, it's at restaurants. I work in the commercial industry myself. Granted, I don't work on any commercials that contribute to animal cruelty, but there are rules around how to market certain products to the public. One of my jobs is to make the product look good. We don't ask questions very often. We don't seek out information to back up the things that we see. You know, we see something and we are instantly drawn to that idea, and we believe it, we take it, and we go with it. Who watches a commercial and then like sits down and Googles up the company and like, okay, let me see what this is about?
Wherever you were in California at this small independent dairy farm, they exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, but what I am saying is that you have to take the baby away from the mom to get the milk. Any dairy farmer will tell you that that's true. There's not a single dairy farm, whether it's a small dairy farm or a large factory farm, the cow has to get pregnant, the cow has to give birth, and then when that cow gives birth, the baby has to be taken away. Otherwise, the baby will drink the product that they're trying to sell. And then, when this cow is unable to provide enough product for this farmer to be profitable for him or for her, this cow is now useless to this farmer. So they are sold off to be killed. These are just things that have to happen. It doesn't...
That's at the very basic...
Yes.
The very basics of what the dairy industry involves.
Yes, and how they're treated can vary from farm to farm, but that will also increase the cost of the milk. It'll change, lots of factors go into it. But at the core, it is a sexually exploitative industry, and it has to be, because you're literally purchasing the breast milk of an animal. That's what it is.
Like, look at that picture. I mean, even like touching the udder of a cow, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's so weird. I think outside the box for a little bit. I know this has been normalized. We see it in cartoons and we see it on TV, and it's like this normal thing, but you're literally touching the breast of a mammal and you're squeezing it to get breast milk out.
Squeezing the nipples of another animal. And look, this whole video is about an article that references a paper, the Readying the Rape Rack paper that he scoffed at the title.
Which we don't know if he read, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, the paper is very comprehensive. It's again, everything we've talked about.
But there was one quote that I think we both really appreciated that kind of summarizes the entire vegan message as it pertains to the dairy industry.
It's easy for one to say they love animals, and then to enjoy a glass of milk with dinner that was the product of a living, breathing individual's pain, suffering, and inevitable slaughter. This begs the question, if you had to visit the factory farm every morning to get your own milk, stare into the irises of sick, bleeding creatures, see their deformed and infected nipples, and walk away knowing very well how your temporary enjoyment affected another female's body and overall fate, would you still drink it and call yourself a feminist?
First of all, speciesism is being addressed. We say we love animals, but we literally pay other human beings to abuse animals on our behalf. It's the only way these industries stay in business, if we pay them. This is the reality of buying a glass of milk or putting creamer in your coffee or eating a block of cheese. We know at the grocery store they don't put any of that stuff on the packaging, because then you might change your buying habits. So we're not going to do that. We're going to put beautiful pictures of grass and cows, and we'll make a cartoon cow with earrings and call her a happy cow or a laughing cow. Yeah, we're gonna do all sorts of marketing bullshit to make you think that you're not paying for an animal to be murdered, but you're paying for an animal to be murdered. But they don't want you to think that. So if you actually had to go experience it for yourself, if you had to go to the farm and see what these cows go through, because you're right, most people don't know what goes on a farm, yourself included, and most people don't want to know what goes on a farm.
Doesn't that make you mad, though? Doesn't it make you mad that they try to fool you? Like, you're being taken for a fool because they know that you're kind and you have a good heart, and if you saw what really went on at a dairy farm, you stop buying it. I mean, that's why we all have. You know, vegans are these crazy extremists, but we are just regular people like you who changed our minds. Mm-hmm. We were there once too. They talk about meat and dairy like we've never had it.
Yeah.
We've had it. We know what it tastes like. We don't miss it. We learned otherwise. We know not to contribute to that. We don't want to be taken for fools. We are smarter than that. And you're smarter than that. Yeah.
I bet you could talk to a farmer and they'll tell you all sorts of things about animals you never knew, because city folk and these kind of people don't know anything about these animals.
City folk. We've gotten that one too. You city folk don't know anything. Oh yeah? Come to a vigil with us. Us city folk, we go to vigils and we bear witness to animals. Just because we live in the city doesn't mean we can't drive our car to the rural areas of California and stand outside a slaughterhouse or outside a dairy farm.
Yeah.
Us city folk.
Us city folk were also born in Costa Rica and West Virginia. Hardly the most urban of areas. We live in a city now. What?
When humans have selectively bred these animals to be a certain way, then they're fairly dependent on humans and like human support, you know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But does that make it right to do whatever we want to them?
But we bred them to be that way. Now they rely on us, so let's murder them by the trillions.
Overlooking the fact that they are some of the sweetest, most innocent, trusting animals on the planet.
That's why we chose those species.
Yeah, because we can take advantage of them. Mm-hmm. Isn't that sad?
I'm not going to give a full segment to this, but I just want to stress, every so often, you get that great journalism. And while the story from the New York University about milking cows being exploitation is terrifying and funny.
Terrifying and funny, but again, you're not actually providing an argument. He's really bad at providing. It's like this video should be called like, I don't have an argument. Tim Pool.
Most people don't realize it. Maybe that's because they're not super familiar with this world. They think they're being super original, you know, with their arguments, but we actually have a book. Earthling Ed published a really good book called 30 Reasons, 30 Excuses, and they're all in there. It's the same. Yeah. It's predictable.
This is like level zero carnist.
They're debunkable.
Arguments.
It's like,
So far he said ancestors, though, we bred them that way, though, and
we're animals.
Animals eat other animals, though.
Okay. Yeah, like those have all, that's...
Given that
kindergarten vegan argument.
See, people jump into the vegan debate prematurely. I think people go, I'll argue that, and they don't know what they're getting into, because veganism is an ethical lifestyle. So you have to be prepared to debate morals and ethics and philosophy to a degree. That's what veganism is. So when people go at it, they want to talk about the health aspects, the environmental aspects. They want to bring up lions, though, canines, though, ancestors, though. But
the same stuff.
It's all this stuff that doesn't address the moral argument, because veganism is a moral choice that people make. It's no different than being a feminist. And when I say feminist, I mean a person who thinks that men and women should be treated equally. Not that men should be treated better, not that women should be treated better. They should be treated equally. They should have equal consideration. If I were to use Tim's arguments and just replace veganism with feminism, I could say, hey, listen, our ancestors have been mistreating women for thousands of years. Women have been raped for thousands of years. This is just how it is. Men are superior to women. It's just how it is, okay? That's what we've decided. Would you honestly accept that as an argument? Because feminism is a moral issue.
Once upon a time, people thought that women were less. Does that make it true? No, of course not. We have now decided that. But it was true then. It's just that some people chose to look at it from the point of view of the oppressor.
Veganism is saying, hey, we treat dogs and cats and rabbits and deer and dolphins, we treat them with respect and reverence.
In some parts of the world.
In some parts of the world, you know, in the Western world, we love these animals, we treat them with respect, we let them live their lives, we recognize that they have sentience, that they have emotions, that they have personalities. We love them for who they are, we care for them until their last days on earth, and even then we struggle within ourselves, like, should we euthanize our dog now? Is he in pain? Well, he has this, he has that. Like, we agonize over these decisions. We pay for their medical care. We love them like family members. And yet, farm animals, none of that.
Despite experiencing the same emotions, the same joy, pain, worry, anxiety, fear, they experience all of those things. So what really makes them different? What justifies treating them so much worse? Tim, in the end, just like we've done with various other influencers who've never taken us up on the offer, we invite you to attend a vigil with us next time you're in California. Join us at a slaughterhouse and really, get a sense of what goes into putting cheese on your sandwich.
So I hope you had a good laugh this whole segment. I'm gonna press stop now and then bust out laughing for the next 10 minutes. Stick around, I got another segment coming up in a few moments and I will see you shortly.
Yeah, so you're not gonna turn the camera off and bust out laughing. Again, you're putting on an act. You're trying to assert to your audience that this is something to be laughed at. But I don't genuinely believe that you're going to turn the camera off and bust out laughing, because it's not funny. You're struggling for an argument to use that can justify your actions because you're a smart individual, and I think you can see the connection that vegans are making, the fact that the dairy industry does exploit animals sexually, because you yourself said, like, well, they do take the babies away, and that's a whole other thing. But anyway, you recognize the moral wrongs involved in the dairy industry. I have a feeling, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I have a feeling that you simply enjoy the taste of milk and ice cream and butter and cheese, and you don't want to give up that sensory pleasure, even though we have a plethora of vegan milks, vegan creamers, vegan ice cream, vegan cheeses. You would like to stay in this familiar area, because branching outside of the familiar is scary. I know it's scary.
It's very scary for humans.
But
humans are very scared of changing their routines.
I don't know if I can put almond creamer in my coffee.
And trying new things. They're very scared of trying new things, trying new foods. It's so strange to me. Just like people are such babies about food sometimes. It drives me insane. Adults,
like people are toddlers. Like adults act like toddlers.
You're like, hey, here, you want to try this? You're like, what is it? What is it?
Ooh, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I
am I gonna like it?
I really like it.
And then you tell them it's vegan, they're like, oh, it's just food.
Can you just put it in your face
just
and try it? Have you tried vegan creamer? Have you tried vegan ice cream? Have you tried vegan cheese? We've had the cow breast milk version and we've had the vegan version. There's not much difference.
Yeah.
Especially not when a life is involved. Not one life, multiple lives in the dairy industry. Multiple children will be taken from a mother cow and killed, and multiple cows will be killed.
Just makes milk taste a little more sour, doesn't it?
So those are our thoughts on the Timcast video about college leftist claims milking cows is sexual exploitation because we live in hell. They think the cows that we're exploiting actually live in hell. Yet Tim is saying, oh no, we live in hell because some leftist wrote a paper. I don't understand.
God, it's so hard.
What is this connection that people try to make between politics and veganism? There's no political party associated with veganism. Veganism is simply an animal rights issue. It has nothing to do with left, nothing to do with right.
It's just about being compassionate. Compassion does not have a political party.
And you might ask yourself, why do we bother responding to this? Well, as we always say in all of our response videos, Tim, at least on the Timcast channel, he has over 500,000 subs. So he has a lot of young, impressionable people listening to him, which means he has a lot of power and thus a responsibility to inform his audience in a truthful manner. And he's presenting veganism in an erroneous light, and so it is our responsibility to balance that out. And by the way, Mr. Pool, if you are open for a debate, we will happily debate you, both of us, one of us, either of us. We will happily debate you on the ethics of the dairy industry.
And if you guys like this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button. The thumbs down button works too. Do that if you feel inclined. And if you got something out of this video, if you enjoy our content, if you would like to support our activism, please consider contributing to our Patreon. That really helps us out. It helps us put out more videos. It helps us do more activism, because we have day jobs and we need those day jobs right now to pay rent and all the normal things people do. We're not full-time activists. We wish we were.
And of course, a massive, massive thank you to all of our current patrons on Patreon. You guys are amazing. You support us in our activism. You can also follow us on Instagram if you'd like to see what we're up to day to day here in the LA vegan activist scene.
And visit our Etsy store. We have some merch that you might enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.
Emmy boo.
It's so hot.
I have a moose back here.
I wonder if that light, it got like really bright, but.
Yes, it got dark because the sun disappeared over the horizon of the spherical Earth. I love flat earthers. I love them.
They're so cute.
They're adorable.
Oh my god, it's hot. All right. Oh, and this was peach juice, by the way.
Yes. Country peach from Trader Joe's. Is that what it is? Country
Sweet
peach?
and refreshing.
Wow. Are
If
you
you don't-
headbanging?
if
Are
you
you
don't-
in a Pantene Pro V commercial? What is this?
If you don't have money for a fan.
Huh? That's actually refreshing. I actually enjoy
I
it.
know.
It's quite lovely.
We're wacky. All right.
You're worth it to